she was found a while after she went missing. Like, it wasn't like they found her the next night. It took a little bit to find her.
Okay, now, why do you say that?
Because time passes and there's a certain smell that comes with decay.
And you're sensing that?
Yeah.
Wow. And now, RadioSidney presents Seeing Dead People, Episode 34, The Beast of Birkenshaw. Hello, Darcy. How are you this evening?
I'm fine, and how are you, Nicola?
I'm excellent, thank you, and I'm, as always, looking forward to our conversation. Before I get anywhere, I should ask you up front, have you got any tinglings today about what we might be talking about? Ooh, you must be psychic. Yes, we're going to talk about dead people. Okay, well, let's roll with looking at our first photo. Presumably you've been able to download them. I should ask you for that first.
Okay, just a minute. Yeah, I got photo one up.
Okay, great. So let's look at photo number one, Darcy. It's a Google map close-up of Scotland, just to give us all a broad sense of today's geographic region of interest. You'll notice I've got a circle around the city of Glasgow. We're slipping back in time to the 1950s. We're heading across the pond and north, following the famous River Clyde, to the central lowlands and Scotland's largest city and surrounding area. So the city we know is Glasgow, and the surrounding area is called Lanarkshire County. I would just like to take a moment, Darcy, to thank the Glasgow Police Museum. I'm using their photographs, and they have a terrific website and a really neat-looking museum, and I want to encourage anyone visiting Scotland to drop by because they're letting me use the pics for no fee, which is really kind of them.
Yes, it is.
Let's get back to our investigation. We're going to meet one of Scotland's most notorious killers, Darcy. His major crimes were horrific, spanning 2+ years, during which the citizens of Greater Glasgow were terrorized. All residential doors and windows were locked, the people traveled in groups, and women and girls shunned the outdoors at night. Have you got any thoughts sneaking in now?
Not quite yet, but I just want to point out, when you look at where you circled on the map of Glasgow, it looks like there's someone who's running away, like a side view of them. Are there 3 deaths in particular we're going to deal with?
We're going to deal with at least 3 deaths, yes. Why do you say 3?
Because when I look at it, it made me think of 3 people that were trying to get away from something.
Wow, this is like a plain circle around Glasgow on a map with an X just half-assed written, and you get that from that?
Yeah.
Cool. You must have been a lot of fun as a kid doing your little art.
Oh, probably.
Okay, this criminal, his actions and crimes were so savage, Darcy, so bizarre and depraved that the press gave him an accurate but chilling nickname, chosen after his own home geographic area. He lived in a place called Birkenshaw, a suburb of Glasgow, and his actions were so bestial that they dubbed him the Beast of Birkenshaw. Pretty horrific fellow. Plied his savage craft numerous times. Sometimes he used an iron rod, sometimes pistols, either a Beretta or a Wembley, and sometimes his own bare hands. In fact, Darcy, this man has the dubious infamy of being considered Scotland's first serial killer and possibly the reason for officially coining the term serial killer. Hello, Darcy. How are you this evening? Getting any gleanings there?
I keep hearing, I've got people outside the window, but I keep hearing Peter, Thomas, Robert. So I don't know which one of those ones I'm looking for, Peter, Thomas, Robert.
Okay, I'll let you keep looking. I won't tell you just yet.
Okay.
He was, of course, a serial killer and much more than that, unfortunately, and I'm going to today call him the Beast and not reveal his identity to you until later, okay?
Okay.
This is also a tale of one policeman's relentless pursuit to bring the Beast of Birkenshaw to the gallows at Glasgow's Barlinnie prison, and of our psychopath's need to taunt and control the policeman. This fellow had a lengthy history of petty theft and burglary convictions from a young age and was convicted of numerous sexual assaults at age 16 and spent 9 years behind the slammer's doors. Not a nice character from the beginning.
No.
As he would in future, the Beast denied any involvement in any of the crimes. He blamed the police for trumping up a fantasy story and swore to never forget the detective who supposedly framed him. That policeman was named William Munsey, at the time a detective inspector. From this date onward, Munsey, and I'm not going to say, I shouldn't say the man's name, would be involved in a macabre dance of multiple crimes and investigations and eventually punishment. In 1955, this crazed sexual fiend struck another time and dragged a teenage girl into a field and sexually assaulted her. He was an immediate suspect, caught, tried, and conducted his own defense. And what happened to him at that time, Darcy?
He was let go.
Why do you think that?
Because there wasn't, I feel like, enough evidence.
You're exactly right. So the policeman who put him away that time, or tried to put him away that time, was again this William Munsey. After that, the lunatic killer / criminal / burglar / horrible individual psychopath sent Munsey birthday cards and Christmas cards, sometimes actually dropping them through the family letterbox just to let his police adversary know he was close by and he could get to him, and more importantly, to his wife and 2 young daughters at any time. So our investigation for today, Darcy, though, begins now with a new and more dramatic event. Any idea what that might be?
Okay, 7, right?
7 what?
7 crimes, 7 murders.
And why do you say 7 murders?
Because that's what I'm hearing in my head. 777, 777, over and over.
Wow. Okay. Well, you'll find out. All right. Our starting point for our investigation today relates to a 17-year-old gal named Anne Nealons. Let's look at photo number 2, Darcy. There's lovely gal Anne Nealons, only 17 years of age.
Okay.
Can you tell us anything about Anne?
Oh, first of all, she's beautiful, radiant.
Isn't she?
Full of light. When I look at her, I feel like there's markings around her neck. Plus, I feel like I've been perforated, might be the word I'm looking for.
Uh-huh.
So that, to me, would be stabbing. Is she his first victim or his second?
That's a tough question to answer because, frankly, no one really knows how many murders this fellow committed. But for us, for our perspective, she is the first murder.
Okay.
You have a sense of others? Obviously, you have a sense of 7.
I have at least, I'm going to go from 3 to 7 because I saw the 3 to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. Does Anne tell you anything?
There's a piece of me that wants to say that she was known to him. Okay? So either he stalked her, he knew of her, or there's a connection to her family somehow.
Okay. On the night of the second day of 1956, the Beast stalked, captured, and raped young Anne, unfortunately, and then beat her to death with an iron bar on a golf course in East Kilbride near Glasgow. Does that help you tell us anything more about Anne?
Yeah, just what a horrific way to die. But here's the interesting part. I don't feel that anger from her. It was almost like she accepted her fate.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You haven't had that, I don't think, that experience before.
No, it's almost, which makes me think that he was captured. Eventually, for her to have that kind of peace, I would say he had to have been captured.
Okay, so you're talking about in the future, this fellow has been captured, and this gal, Anne, is at peace because of that.
Yes.
But she's not at peace the night she's murdered.
Oh, no, and she's terrified. I actually wonder if she wasn't, she seems a little woozy, so whether or not she's been sedated.
Oh, okay, I don't know about that.
But what I also feel is that there's a lot of anger here. Okay? Not just the fact that he raped her and beat her with a pipe. There's more anger here, like he's fighting something.
The man himself, there's something very much rage going on within him.
But when you look at him, he's attractive. He's got dark hair. I think dark eyes. I'm really hard to see eyes right now, but I would say he has an air about him. It doesn't feel like he would threaten me. He's very articulate and everything. She wouldn't have been afraid to go with him.
Ah, okay. It's interesting you've named a few of his personality traits. We'll see if you're right.
Okay.
Anne Nealon's body was found the next morning. The Beast, as I'm still calling him, was questioned by police because he was a suspect and he worked in the area, but he escaped arrest when his father gave him an alibi. Now, I'm going to make it really tough for you, Darcy, because I'm not telling you who this guy is, and I'm going to show you photos of 3 men, each with a key role in our story. One is our psychopathic serial killer. One is Detective Superintendent, at the time now, William Muncie, our dogged policeman. And one is the husband of a victim, suspected of being involved in her death. Now, I want to have a look at them, but I don't want you to feel that you need to tell us which one is which just yet. I want you to see all 3 of them and see what you can communicate with them about, and we'll talk about them, and then we'll talk about them in detail a little bit later, okay?
Okay, photo number 3.
Yeah, tell us about photo number 3, please.
Older gentleman, great smile.
Yeah.
He seems like he packs the weight of the world around with him. He looks like he's well-dressed. You can't see a lot, but he does look well-dressed. Weird, because it looks like, I guess maybe it's a photo. There's someone's hand on his shoulder.
Yes, in fact, it is his wife. You weren't just not seeing that part of the photograph.
Ooh, the next guy, and it doesn't have a number on it.
Oh, it should say number 4.
Okay, it doesn't on my end.
Oh, okay.
I found it.
Okay.
He's very well-dressed with the ascot, like he's either wants to portray himself as man about town, wealthy, he's got that kind of smirk on his face that would make girls giggle, like Elvis Presley.
Yes, he does have the look of it. And of course, it is the 50s, and who was the king of the 50s?
Yeah. Okay, and then where's the other guy?
Number 5.
And then I got to find some number 5.
He's a middle-aged guy with a mustache?
Yeah, I expected to see glasses on his face.
Oh, okay. I don't know if he ever wore them.
Okay, now this is a toss-up because, again, suit and tie. So the first one and this one, number 3 and number 5. Police and the man obviously married. The other one's probably going to be the murderer because when I look at him, I feel like I'm being sucked into a falsehood.
Sucked into what?
A falsehood.
Ah, okay. And when you say him, you're talking about which photo number?
Number 4.
Number 4. Okay. We'll go on, and before I tell you who's who, we'll go on a little bit further.
But with the guy with the mustache, I'd really like to think he's the policeman.
Well, I'll give you a bonus there. You are right. He is William Muncie, the policeman.
Yeah, because when I look at him, because I can't find my glasses right now. When I look at him, I think, oh, he should be wearing glasses. So maybe that was as he got closer to age.
Okay. Well done on picking out who he is. Our Beast now begins a horrific killing spree that, thank God, eventually is his undoing. On September 17th, 1956, he broke into the home of the Watt family in High Burnside near Glasgow. What did he do in this home to this family, Darcy?
Should be three people dead. I feel like it's like a total massacre. That's weird because one would have thought there'd be a husband here.
And why are you saying, wait a second here, you haven't looked at the photos ahead of us, so you think of the 3 are being killed? Who are the 3 being killed?
Like a wife, a daughter, and I'm not sure if that's another daughter or sister.
Have you seen the photographs?
Yes.
And you're telling me it's a wife, a daughter, and maybe a sister or another daughter?
Yeah.
Jeez, Darcy, you're amazing. I don't know how you do this, but let's have a look at photo number 6 because you've nailed our trio astoundingly. Our first person is, and there you'll see the arm around her is William Watt's arm. So that is the picture that you just saw of the guy with the hooded face.
Okay.
That's Mr. Watt. That's her husband. This is Marion Watt. So she was aged 45, and at the time, Darcy, she'd had open heart surgery, so she was vulnerable. Her sister, whom we'll meet in the next photograph, number 7, her name is Margaret Brown. She was staying to take care of her sister, like you, while her husband, William, was away. And photo number 8, we have Vivian Watt, who is Marion's daughter. So you've nailed the 3 women exactly.
So is she like this young girl? Is she like 10, 12?
No, she's actually 16.
Really? She looks so young.
I know. It might be just the poor quality of this old black and white pic, but she's actually just 16, and she really does look like she's more like 13 or even lower. I know.
And she looks like her mom. Actually, all 3 ladies look alike.
Yes, they do. You can tell they're in the same family, can't you? I think it's the nose, for one thing, and the eyes.
Yeah.
What do you think happened to these women, and how did it go down?
I'm going to say that, obviously, the police suspected the husband. Okay? But I think the husband knew the killer. He wasn't paid to kill. Okay? I feel like I've broke in 4th century. There's the word I'm looking for. But the husband wasn't there. See, this is my problem, because I would have thought the husband should have been at home at this particular time of night unless he was out drinking. But I keep seeing 2 men.
Okay, keep that thought, because that's really remarkable. What happened to the 3 women?
One, I believe, in hearing a gun. So I don't know if someone was shot or whether this is going to take me to the next victim. Again, stabbing, strangulation. And I would have said they should have been sexually assaulted.
Okay, that's not quite right. You're right about the gun. But this is what interests me, because this killer, as we know, this criminal, has a need for a sexual assault.
Yeah.
But these individuals were shot at close range in their beds. They weren't sexually assaulted, which is, I think, astounding.
Which means it wasn't him. Because his desire and need for that release was really important.
It's funny you talk about that, because at the very end we're going to talk about this killer has a very different approach to his crimes, and I can't understand it. So I'm hoping as we go through this you'll understand the fellow more, and you'll be able to explain to me these odd, dislocate kind of occurrences. But he did not sexually assault any of the women. You are correct. The husband wasn't home. He was away supposedly fishing. Now, the man I'm calling the Beast was out on bail for housebreaking already at the time, and Muncie, the cop, was certain he was the perpetrator. However, despite this sort of spidey sense of Muncie's, the police force in general thought the killer was the husband.
Okay.
The theory on their part was that though he was 90 miles away, he could have come back, driven back at night, done the terrible deeds, faked a break-in, and drove back to his fishing spot. He was picked out of lineups by witnesses who say they saw him traveling back that night. He had to take a ferry. And also it was odd, he took with him the family's golden lab, whom generally remained home to be a protector for the 2 gals. He was actually put in jail for 2 months, released after there wasn't enough evidence eventually brought forward, and they let him go. But to this very day, Marion Watts's family believe that William Watts was involved somehow, and locals in Glasgow say he was involved somehow, but there's been no proof of that. However, your comment about the 2 men we're going to get back to, because that's really quite an interesting and insightful one.
Yeah, but I can't see him. I can't see the Beast, as you call him, falling away from that one particular need of release.
You mean you can't see the Beast not sexually assaulting these women?
Absolutely.
Okay, this is going to be very interesting for you, because we're going to find out how that follows in later crimes. So there was no motive discovered for William Watts to kill his wife and daughter and sister-in-law. He was an adulterer, but they couldn't really come up with anything, and they couldn't come up with any evidence. But he did remain the main suspect for quite some time until the next brutal incident. But what William did following his own release is quite fascinating. He began his own investigation, and he let it known, as they say around Glasgow, in the lower parts of Glasgow, that he'd pay for information regarding the slaughter of his wife and daughter and sister-in-law. You've now picked out the man who's the cop.
Yeah.
You have picked out successfully the man who's our criminal, because you said number 4 is him and number 4 is the man. And number 3 is the husband, William Watt. So we have photo number 3 is now William Watt, Marion's husband. He was suspected of her murder or of soliciting her murder. Photo number 5 is William Munsey, our mustachioed hero, the police chief inspector from Glasgow. And photo number 4 is the image of our serial killer, a man named Peter Manuel. So have a look again at photo number 4. This is the face of our family annihilator, of a man who killed Ann Nealance, who sexually assaulted Ann Nealance, who's committed sort of uncountable numbers of burglaries. What do you think about this guy they call the Beast of Birkenshaw?
To look at him, one would not think he was a beast.
Yeah.
Very debonair. And it's weird because people who burglar houses don't normally become murderers or... Okay, when I took my CrimCast, those weren't the characteristics of a murderer.
Okay, when you took
my criminology classes.
Right, okay.
A burglar would be a crime of opportunity.
Right.
They normally don't turn to murder. Unless, of course, as I said to my sister tonight, we're all capable of murder depending on the circumstances. When we look back to Anne, the very first girl, it was brutal and unrational. Where the other 3 ladies, the mother, daughter, and sister-in-law,
right,
that's
sister,
calculated.
Yep.
There's no two ways about it.
You're saying they were sexually violated? Or you're saying you're confused that it could be the same guy?
Yeah, I'm confused. It could be the same guy.
Yeah, and me too. And we'll discuss that as we go, because this guy is a very unusual individual. Very unusual, I think, and I agree with you. From the criminological perspective, as a psychopath, that's not the same thing as a burglar.
Yeah.
And it's not even like the stepping stone. You don't burgle a few houses to step up to being a serial killer.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah. We'll just keep on going. A young woman named Isabel Cook was supposed to meet her boyfriend en route to a dance nearly at the last day almost of 1957. She didn't come home. Her boyfriend didn't turn up. The next day, her family searched high and low, friends everywhere, could not find her. Have a look at photo number 9. This is a beautiful young woman, only 17, wearing a really nice old-fashioned one-piece white bathing suit. What do you think of Isabel Cook?
Again, beautiful, nice, beautiful structures, happy, standing in the water. You know, it almost makes me think of Italy for some strange reason. She looks happy.
Yeah. And so can you tell us what happens to poor Isabel?
I am going to say by looking at her neckline that we, again, may have some form of strangulation.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's nighttime.
Yep.
And there's something else going on here. It's throwing me a little because she's in water.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I don't know if she's by water. And again, I don't see a gunshot. Okay. So, why does she feel... was she drowned?
No.
Like, what is this water other than her standing in it?
I think this is a shot of her in a swimming pool. or on the ocean. I don't know. But you're taking that image of her standing in water to be something more than what I would take, which is just a picture of Isabel who's in a bathing suit in a pool.
The thing is that when I know she was out for the night because I am seeing stars.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like it's not usual for her to be late if she says she's going to be home at a certain time, like she was a good kid.
Yep.
All right. And I also feel that, okay, you know, she was found in a field like the other person.
Yes, I do know that. I'm not going to tell you.
All right. But she was found, she was found a while after she went missing. It wasn't like they found her the next night. It took a little bit to find her.
Okay, now, why do you say that?
Because time passes and there's a certain smell that comes with decay.
And you're sensing that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, let me just give you a little information because I don't have to give you much, I have to admit. My goodness, you're remarkable tonight. You're correct. It was in the evening, the night of the 29th of December. Isabel Cook was a very good daughter and a good person. Normally wouldn't be out late, was supposed to meet her boyfriend, and for some reason he didn't show, so she was on her own. Peter Manuel somehow happened upon her. He chased her, he raped her, and as you said, he strangled her to death as she was trying to get to this dance. And Peter did something to her body that he did not do to the Watts and he did not do to Ann Nealons, and you nailed it.
Okay. Guess what? I forgot what I said.
You said she was found later.
Oh, okay. So he hit her?
Exactly. So he buried her.
Oh, my God.
So the poor Isabel Cook's family, frantic, trying to find their daughter, did not find her for quite some time. Now, I can't believe you knew she wasn't found. I think that just is totally mind-blowing.
It's just this feeling of being lost where the one girl was, and maybe that's why the first girl, Anne, felt more free because she didn't, how do I explain it? She didn't look lost. Okay.
Okay.
Where Isabella looked lost, like it took a while for, and that's how I equated that. It took a while for them to find her.
Okay, and you're 100% right. But when I look at the photograph of Isabel, I see with shoulder-length brown hair, a brilliant smile. I don't see her in any way the way you're seeing her. Where's that coming from?
It's like, for me, when I look at a photo, it helps me figure out who's dead or alive. And it's hard if people look alike. It really makes it hard to determine who's dead and alive. But the thing is that there's more to them. Like, I've got to deal with spirit. You can show me what you look like now or what you would have looked like if you were alive, but you can only give me a glimpse of things that transpired on your death. Because if they're shot or totally mutilated, I have to sleep with that at night.
Yep.
I don't want to sleep with it.
Okay.
So when I look at her, like I said, when I saw the water around her, she's beautiful, but there's this other reflection behind her of sadness.
Ah.
Like eyes watching her, trying to, and if you look at her photo number 9, and on the bank, like on the dark thing, it looks like there's an eye in it. Then there looks like there's 2 eyes watching her too. Plus, there looks like there's a pair of glasses. So now we've come into the idea of why I think someone should be wearing glasses.
Things I don't see at all.
And if you look over her, so if I'm her, and I'm looking out at the photo, so over her left shoulder, see the big A and T on the wall?
Yes.
Okay, so those are clues for me.
Okay, and what clues are they?
Thomas.
Okay.
And Anthony.
And Anthony. Okay, that's interesting. We'll see what they come forward or not. Okay, Thompson and Anthony. Okay. What do you think he does 4 days after killing Isabel Cook and hiding her body, what does he do to celebrate the new year of 1958?
Didn't he kill again?
He kills again.
But this one, I don't know if he hid it.
Okay, let's look at photos 10, 11, and 12. They are photos of 3 members of a family called Smart. So you see Peter Smart in photo number 10, and he's wearing glasses.
Yeah.
In photo number 11, his wife Doris.
Yeah.
And in photo number 12, which is a really bizarre little shot of this little guy, their child named Michael, who was only 11 years of age.
Okay.
What do you notice about those 3 people as to what might be their fate?
Can I ask whether or not he shot them too?
You can ask. Is that what you're hearing and seeing?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. This poor family were shot dead, again, in their beds, in their home, in a place called Uddingston, south of Glasgow, by our fellow Peter Manuel. Now, here is where Peter Manuel goes again on another divergent track. He does something different here in this annihilation of this family. Can you get a sense of what he does with this whole scenario? Okay, I don't know. From my understanding, he just shot them. Again, no sexual assault on anyone. But he did something which goes into the level of unbelievable depravity and I think proper criminal insanity. He remained in the house with the 3 corpses for nearly a week.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm going to say something. I should have blurted out. I was in a bed of roses. So that's exactly what I heard just before you did that. Okay, I lie in a bed of roses.
What does that mean?
He lived, you said it, he lived with them. He lied in a bed of roses. So
But
this was his rose garden.
oh, that's just gross and sick at the lowest level.
But that's exactly what I heard.
Wow. As part of his bed of roses, he lived there, he ate their leftovers, and he fed the family cat.
Oh, that was nice of him.
Yeah, isn't that nice of him? He murders 3 people in cold blood. He, as you say, considers this is his bed of roses. And yet he doesn't murder the cat.
Well, which leads one to say, is he really a sociopath? Because they don't care who they kill.
That's why I find this fellow really a unique individual from what I've ever encountered. The kinds of crimes he does are like these 2 or 3 or 4 different people. These stupid little house burglaries, then serious sexual assaults, and then moving to murder, but then hanging around bodies while they're unfortunately putrefying. Doesn't bother him at all.
Maybe he has no sense of smell.
Maybe that's the sense of roses to him.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting even crazier than you are. Good God.
Hard.
But it was only not until Peter Smart failed to return to work, January 6th, that the police were contacted and they came to the house.
Okay.
He finally left the house after 6 days. He stole Peter Smith's new wad of holiday cash and the family car. Now, I'm going to do a little, what they call, and you'll know this, geographic profiling now, Darcy.
Okay.
Well, of course, it means scientifically identifying and analyzing the geographic area around a criminal's home and their crime. This is just for fun. Have a look at photo 13, which is our map of Glasgow, but closer in.
Yep.
And I've marked in red the location of the 4 horrific crimes, the homicides committed by Peter Manuel. And also I've noted in a bit of a pinky purple color the Manuel family home location in Birkenshaw, Scotland. So what do you see on my little map there?
Well, he definitely was in the radius of each of these families. Mind you, I would have thought he'd had branched out and made himself the center of attention, but he put himself at the higher end of the pecking order. His home is above where the murders took place.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is, because normally he would be more centralized. But he's definitely in that range.
One thing we haven't talked about, Darcy, because it's just too many items to discuss, is that, as I mentioned, he was a prolific criminal, and he broke into houses left, right, and center, stealing from the occupants, taking money and goods before and during this 2-year killing spree. So I didn't chart these crimes, but I bet you they'd spread out like a big stain around the entire map, with his family being in the middle.
So is there a chance? Did they ever look into the idea that maybe he thought these people slighted him in some way, and that's why he killed them?
From what I read and researched, there doesn't seem to be necessarily any connections. Now, how he found these people, why he chose these people, is unknown.
Yeah, I feel like he stalked them.
Possibly, certainly, and he certainly stalked the young women, but that would have been just the night of. As to how, when he started to watch them and then finally capture them, I don't know, but he did stalk them the night of. You'd think he'd have to have some sense of what was going on in these homes in order for him to decide, I'm going to break in and do this stuff. You have to get a sense of who's living there. Are they home? Are they not home? How many people are in the house? That kind of stuff.
Yes. And how often do people come to visit?
Yeah, exactly. How often do people come to visit? How often do people leave? All kinds of stuff. So I presumed he must have done some stalking.
Yeah.
Now, this guy, I call him a narcissistic butcher because he was that, but he was so arrogant and so desperate to show off to the authorities, he actually gave a policeman a lift while he was in the stolen Smart family automobile. The cop was investigating Isabel Cook's disappearance, and Manuel audaciously says to the policeman, "You're looking in all the wrong places." Can you believe it? He's in the car of the family he's murdered. He's talking about the woman he's murdered and hidden, and telling the police officer he's not looking in the right spot.
Wow. That is something.
That is brazen, isn't it?
It is.
Detective Muncie and his police force were convinced that Peter Manuel was the Beast of Birkenshaw. He was doing these crimes, but they had no proof, believe it or not. Now, we're talking the 50s. Forensic evidence wasn't as strong, obviously, as it is today. But Manuel made, finally, the fatal mistake. He bought drinks in a local pub with some of the 5-pound banknotes he'd stolen from Peter Smart.
Oh.
So now Muncie had the evidence to act. On January 14th, 1958, Peter Manuel was rudely awakened in his bed at his parents' home. This is a 28-year-old man still living at home with his parents, and was arrested for the murder of the Smart family because they had the money from the Smart house. The search of the Manuel family home turned up items stolen from the Smarts, plus treasures from many other burglaries. Now check out photos 14 and a close-up of that photo, number 15, which depict manacled Peter Manuel being led into Barlinnie prison. This was his last abode. What do you see about our narcissistic, arrogant bugger now?
He still seems confident that he's going to get off, okay, even though he is well shackled. But the thing is, I don't know. There's no feeling of shame whatsoever attached to him.
Is that because he's morally bankrupt?
No, just because he doesn't care.
Oh.
There's no feeling. You know how people, when you've done something wrong, you feel a little guilty about it?
Sure.
That's not what I'm picking up here.
So you're picking up that's a true sociopathic trait?
I believe so.
Anything else you're picking up?
I keep wanting to say I'm not guilty, but...
You're sounding very much like Peter Manuel, let me tell you.
I know, but the thing is, too, that... So he gets to swing, right?
Now, why do you say that?
Just this feeling of seeing a rope around his neck.
Okay, we'll flesh that out in a little bit, okay?
All right.
This is another occasion where this fellow's actions and behavior really twist my brain. Some of the items found in the family home were found in his father's room. His father's name was Samuel. Samuel Manuel was also arrested that same day. Now, overseeing all this investigation and arrests was Yes, our hero, Detective Muncie, thank goodness, Detective Superintendent at the time, Chief Superintendent, he was the one who finally got to bring Manuel in. But this dark journey of Peter Manuel's really gobsmacks me, as the English would say, because his behavior is so intriguing and it's so unknowable to me, Darcy. This is where he does another twist. He decides to confess to everything to protect his dad.
Wow.
I know. Couldn't believe that. Like, this is a guy with no moral conscience. He's an absolute sociopath. And yet, when his father was arrested with him and blamed for some of the items that were stolen, this guy steps up and says, I'll confess if you let me tell my parents about everything first.
Are they thinking that they both, because I saw two people, is it feasible that they worked in tandem with each other and did different crimes?
No, not at all. Your second person is going to come to haunt us in a minute, but no, his father was completely innocent of everything.
Okay.
The police said, okay, fine, you're going to confess, we'll let you talk to your parents. And in the end, what I call crocodile tears streaming down his face, Manuel spilled his guts to the cops. He admitted to killing Ann Nealons, Marion and Vivian Watt, Margaret Brown, and the entire Smart family.
Okay. Wait.
And how many does that add up to? We've got 3 family Smarts, 3 family Watts, that's 6, and Ann Nealons is 7.
Yeah.
And what did you say at the very beginning?
7. The number
7. Now, we know we have Isabel Cook here, so there's a little bit of a twist going to come to your number 7. But you're going to be right, because days later, Peter Manuel led Muncie, as part of his confession, and other police officers to the 5th fairway of the East Kilbride Golf Course, to the spot where 2 years ago he had buried 17-year-old Isabel Cook.
Oh my God.
So you were right, she was buried. It took a long time for her to be found and for her family to find out what happened to their beloved daughter. Horrendous. But now we have 8 deaths, Darcy.
Yeah.
You had 7. We're going to see what happens about that one death that seems to be out of touch here, out of track.
Okay.
And when Emmanuel shows them where poor Isabel Cook is buried, he walks nonchalantly across the grass and finally, in a very casual way, says, "Oh, this is the place. In fact, I think I'm standing on her right now." And he was, right there.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine this person? I cannot wrap my head around him.
I can imagine people like that.
Wow. It's not a good thing to have to imagine.
No.
You say that Manuel says he's not guilty. Now, Manuel has just confessed to everything, right? So what happens when he goes into jail? He gets sent away for a while before the trial. What happens with Manuel then?
I would say that he turns pale and blames someone else.
My line here is, in jail, Peter Manuel's story spins 360 degrees. So there you go. He blamed the police for incriminating him, saying they were out to destroy him, and so he had to destroy them.
Yeah.
His trial at Glasgow's High Court was a sensation, of course, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
He withdrew his confession, claiming it was extracted through coercion, and, as you said, he pleaded not guilty.
Oh, but he was so guilty.
Yeah, but astounding those in the courtroom, the supreme narcissist Manuel brazenly fired his lawyers after a week. And as he'd done in the past to success, remember he defended himself in the past and he got off.
Yeah.
He conducted his own defense here, and he finally even threw in a plea of insanity as his Hail Mary pass. Judge even had to admit that he handled himself well, saying, with a skill that is quite remarkable. What do you think the jury decided in the end?
Guilty. On all counts.
Guilty on all counts. You're right. And it didn't take very long, 2.5 hours.
That's not very long even then.
No, even then, to convict somebody. Now, this is what's interesting, Darcy, and I come back to your 7 murders. Peter Manuel was found guilty of 7 murders. He was found guilty of the unlawful killing of Marion Watt, teenager Vivian Watt, Margaret Brown, teenager Isabel Cook, Peter Smart, Doris Smart, and 10-year-old Michael Smart. But for some reason, the judge determined that Peter Manuel's confession to the very earlier murder of Anne Neeland was inadmissible.
Why is that?
I don't know, but you were right. Only 7 murders that he was convicted of. He committed more, but you heard 7.
Yeah, 777, that's all I heard.
And I forgot to say from the beginning, you came up with the name Peter. That's our main guy.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Now, we haven't run across a Thomas or an Anthony, unfortunately, but Peter for sure. Now, the judge, of course, slipped on the old dreaded black cloth cap and sentenced Manuel to death by hanging in Glasgow's Berlini prison. Have a peek at photo 16, Darcy, on the front page of the Evening Times. Tell us about it.
Okay, Manuel to hang.
Yep.
Found guilty. He is to die on June 11th for the murders of the Smart family and the Watt family.
There's a photograph of him looking maybe a mugshot like, I don't know, black and white. Do you get anything from that photograph? I don't know what to say about it.
Let's see, with those eyes and everything, I would say psycho. It's like there is evil looking out of his eyes. That is what I'm going to say about it.
Say that again?
There is evil looking out of his eyes.
Wow. You know, it's interesting you say that. He, of course, was examined at length by psychiatrists in prison.
Yeah.
While he was waiting for his appeal. And one of his psychiatrists said he displays an indifference to other people's feelings, a characteristic, we know, of psychopathic behavior. This is shown in a marked degree. He is remarkably detached from the realities of the situation. But even though he comes within the category of a psychopath, his day-to-day conduct, his self-control, his emotional stability is much better than the usual psychopath.
Yeah.
He's very different.
He would have been one for the case books, that's for sure.
Yeah. And even though he's convicted of multiple murders and he's lounging on Barlinnie Prison's death row, he wasn't finished toying with police. He goes from being cooperative and self-assured and jaunty to suddenly, in late June, getting close to you-know-what day, to uncooperative, apathetic. He's got suddenly now grotesque muscle movements. He refuses to talk. He won't eat. He's only going to drink tea and milk. What do you think that's about?
He's trying to, I would say, still trying to work on his psychological case of, look at me, I'm so sick that this is all I'm doing. Still trying to build favor, especially if he thinks there's any chance of a reversal.
Do you think this is an act in an attempt to reduce his sentence?
Yes.
His acting abilities failed to convince even his mother, who reportedly slapped his face during one prison visit during this time, shouting, "You can't fool me." Now I say right away, of course, if that was the case, lady, why didn't you do something about the damaged, dangerous son you had before he went on this murderous spree?
Sometimes we're blind to what is happening right in front of us.
Good answer, Darcy. A few weeks later, Peter Manuel's appeal failed. He had supposedly his last supper of fish, chips, tomatoes, and tea, plus a final swig of brandy. I tell you, I'd need the whole bottle.
Yeah.
When he stepped up to the hanging noose around 8 a.m. on Friday, July 11th, 1958, Peter Manuel's last words were to the hangman, and he said, very strange, "Turn up the radio and I'll go quietly."
Oh, wow.
Isn't he bizarre?
Yeah.
He was the third last criminal to be executed in Scotland and died in less than 30 seconds.
Wow.
Now, I was glad to hear that Canada had abolished the hanging execution of individuals in 1952, as we discussed with our Don Jail episode. So they're a little bit further behind us, but thank God they stopped it.
Yeah.
Many felt that this man committed far more murders, Darcy. And in fact, he was posthumously convicted of murdering another individual, a taxicab driver, in 1958 in Newcastle while he had spent some time down there. Now I'm going to bring you back to your comment about the two men. This is going to blow your mind. Decades later, it was learned that after he was released from prison, William Watt, remember him, the father and husband of the Watt family?
Yes.
He actually met Peter Manuel at a Glasgow restaurant in 1957. So after William Watt got out of prison, after his family was murdered, these two men met, and they supposedly spent 12 hours together driving around Glasgow, drinking in clubs. Then they even headed to Watts's brother's house to have bacon and eggs, and then sat and drank tea outside of Manuel's house. And here's where another weird twist of that weird Manuel's brain. He wouldn't let Watts in his family house to meet his mother because Watts was a possible family annihilator.
Oh my God.
Talk about the kettle calling the pot black. This is the murderer himself.
Yeah.
What do you think that was about? Can you get any sense of that?
Maybe they were trying to learn from each other.
But William Watt, from what we know, the father and husband, was not guilty of anything other than adultery.
Okay, I'm going to give him that. Definitely adultery. But maybe Manuel was trying to learn more about the Watt family. You know, sometimes we like to relive our crimes, right?
Yeah, and I guess William Watt would be desperate to know what happened.
Yes.
But isn't that an astounding occurrence? A lawyer that they both knew got them together.
And maybe the idea was for him to find out exactly, maybe it was a plant.
We know William Watt had said he would give money for people to find out what happened to his family. I don't know if any money passed hands between these two gentlemen.
No, I'm not feeling that. That is so warped.
That was our tale of the Beast of Birkenshaw, and you did remarkably well tonight, Darcy. You knew the husband wasn't there when the Watt family was killed. You said immediately 7 murders, and in fact we see 8, but only 7 were convictions. You said Isabel Cook was found later. You felt the sadness in her eyes that she'd been left behind. I just, so many things you nailed tonight. You knew, of course, that our murderer was photo number 4, Peter Manuel. You picked him out from our 3 men. You knew who the cop was. You knew who the husband was. You did brilliantly. You're on great form tonight. Thank you.
The idea is that's why I had a nap.
I appreciate you having a nap. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Seeing Dead People. Whatever's going on in Darcy's head, I think is so cool and astonishing. We'd love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. So please, shoot us an email to info@radiosidney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes of Seeing Dead People will emerge on the first Saturday of every month and will also be available as a downloadable podcast on soundcloud.com for your convenience. Seeing Dead People airs online at radiosidney.ca every Saturday night at 8 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10 a.m., both Pacific Standard Time. Thanks so much for listening to Seeing Dead People. I really dig researching, writing, and communicating with Darcy and her otherworldly contacts. So until the next time, remember, Seeing Dead People is a blast, with goosebumps guaranteed.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.